The guy's name was Dave Henderson. He's a friend of mine still 30 years, 40 years later. And so we skied all day. And he said, "You really should, think about leaving the ski business." I said, "No, are you kidding?" It's romantic. You drink every night, you ski all day, you make good money, not great money, but what the hell is you like? I'm not a ski bum. I'm a successful skier,
Right.
and like, why would I want to take another job? So Heydrich was hired by EMI Capital Records in London to hire someone to revolutionize marketing, a little bit like we did with skiing, to change the way music is marketed in the United States. And so they had sent everybody from Kellogg and all the business schools, and they kept saying, and Capital kept saying, Charles Kaufman and Terry Santisi kept saying, it's not what we're looking for. We need somebody who can have his own idea. So after saying no 3 times, Dave called me up. Dave Henderson called me up. So would you do me a favor? Would you just go to the interview? You don't have to take the job. I just want to show them that Heydrich and Struggle knows you kind of guys, but you don't want that kind of job. I said, sure, I'll go. So I go in. It's going to be a 15-minute interview. I was there 3.5 hours. I talked to everyone around the world. They were getting Jim Fifield, the chairman in London, was on the phone. And so I'm driving home. I think in the ski business, you make, $100,000, or two, whatever it is, but $100,000, let's say. I'm driving home, and the recruiter calls me up and says, "How do you think you did?" And I said, "Hey, listen, you told me to go there, be myself, show them that crazy guys like me. I think they had a good time, but I don't know what time." He goes, "They want to hire you." I said, I don't want to be in the music business. I said, "They're going to pay you 5 times what you're currently making." I said, "I don't even need furniture. I can buy new clothing. I can start in 15 minutes. I can turn this car around." So the question was, for this much money, would you leave skiing and go in the music business?
Right.
And so I said, yes. And so that helped. So anyway, I ended up in the music business doing all the major marketing releases for the world for EMI and Capital, which would have been anybody from Garth Brooks to the Beatles.
You worked so long with Garth Brooks, and you did some remarkable things. Tell us about some of the things that you've done with Garth. I mean, you foreshadowed Garth because you mentioned him earlier about the Yogi Berra jersey. So I know people are waiting to hear about you and Garth. I mean, you did the Central Park event with Garth.
Well, it
Saturday.
really started not long after I was in the business. Um, when you have a corner office on the 42nd floor of a New York City office building, you live in large. And I had a corner office. Phone rings, you push the button. This is Pat. Are you the marketing guy? Yeah, this is Garth Brooks. I said, I've heard of you. He laughs, I laugh. And it became a lifetime friendship. And said, he just basically said, can you take a look at my business and see, is it just all artists? Records go up and down. But I was doing really well, and now I'm doing whatever he was doing, much more than anybody else, but not as much as he used to do. I said, sure, I'll look at it. And so I looked at it, and he called me up and said, can you meet me tomorrow in Nashville? I said, sure. So I went to see Charles Koppelman, who was the chairman and a real music guy from Barbra Streisand, Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra duets was Charles Koppelman. So these people really knew the business. But the nice thing was they knew my side of the business, which was they wanted to make things that sold. They didn't want to just keep doing the same garbage.
Right.
And so I said, Charles, I'm going to go see Garth tomorrow. He goes, take my plane. And Gene Runze, one of the guys who ran all the sales, just laughed hysterically and said, you're the only person who ever got that airplane. So I flew down, I met Garth. And while I was there, I said, Garth, I do have an idea. I know you don't want to do a greatest hits album, but why don't we do an album called The Hits and only put it out for 6 months? He goes, what do you mean 6 months? How many can you sell in 6 months? I said, 10 million. And my last album sold 1.5 million. I was at 10 million. And he said, okay. He said, what do we do? I said, we call Charles up. So, and there were other elements. So we had Charles Koppelman, the US chairman, and Jim Fifield, the worldwide chairman, on the phone with Garth and I, talking on his cell phone. And I said, Charles, I'm sitting with Garth, and I told him the truth that I know he already said no to you. He said no to Jim. And I presented a plan to him, and he just wants to make sure we can do it. So he wanted to call and get your confirmation. He goes, okay, what do you got? I said, we guarantee him 7 million units. So for your audience, 7 million units means if we sell 100,000, I still have to pay him on 7 million. So we're talking a lot of money. And Charles said, hold on. So he gets Jim on the phone, and Jim laughs and goes, where do we recoup that? Where do we break even? I said, 4.2 million. He said, let's take that bet. And he said, hey, before you go, guys, one other thing is, what's that? Charles is a great cigar smoker. What else you guys said? I said, we only sell it for 6 months a year. 6 months? Are you out of your mind? And we all laughed, and Jim was laughing more than anybody in Fifield. And Jim said, you have the numbers, Pat? And I said, yeah. He said, okay, do it. We sold 10 million in 6 months. I mean, that's a record. Like Adele's 21, I think, did 7 or 8 million in 6 months. So it was, the velocity for Garth was so huge, it was ridiculous. And that became kind of the new model for Garth. So I didn't want to live in Nashville. I didn't want to do his marketing, but I was available for him whenever he needed anything. So he did the next album, with the Nashville group, and it didn't work again. At least, to Garth's satisfaction. And so I'm not going to use any names, but he said, come on down and find out what happened. So I go down and I talking to the president of Capitol at the time, and I said, you seem to have cut your Garth marketing budget by 50%. What do you think was going to happen? Because I didn't cut the Garth marketing budget by 50%. He calls in the sales manager and he says, basically he said, this asshole from New York is saying I cut the Garth budget by 50%. The sales manager says, you told me to cut the budget by 50%. I didn't tell you, Garth. That's the only marketing budget we have. So the guy just did what he was told. Right. And so the guy running Capital Times said, Pat, I apologize. I guess I did do that. And he goes, and so I understand. So we kind of reversed that whole model. But Garth was, it's like if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. Country music indexing, that is per capita, country music in New York is the worst indexing music of any genre in any city. So theoretically, we have no chance of winning in New York. So we hatched the idea of Central Park, and I remember Garth looked at me and said, you're the boss. If you think we can do it, let's do it. And 1,200,000 people showed up to see Garth at Central Park. And it was rated at HBO's high rated, I don't know if it still is, but it was its highest rated show. In New York City, it got a 50 share, which is Super Bowl.
Right.
And then, Garth, it really, marketing starts with a good product, and there's no better product ever.
Tell me that story about Garth standing on the balcony before he went down to play.
Well, I guess he was with his wife, Sandy, and she said, I'm going to see if anybody here. And Garth said, don't, it's going to be embarrassing. Because remember, if you're a country boy from Oklahoma in New York City, it's hard to believe New York's going to show up. And his wife turned around and she was just bawling her eyes out and goes, there's nobody there? She goes, they're in the streets. I mean, I don't even know the story, but they were over the walls of Central Park. The police had to shut off both Central Park West and Fifth Avenue. That is one huge swath of land. And we had huge Sony Jumbotrons up there. And he knocked them dead. And I remember after the show, he and I had dinner. I said, what do you think? He goes, I don't really remember anything. Pat, I looked out there. Can you imagine looking at 1 million people? I looked at the man and said, let's do Friday night show. Yeah. And he was just, that might have been his greatest show. He was spectacular. To entertain that many people without batting an eye was spectacular.
Thanks so much for watching. Please make sure you like and subscribe right here to our YouTube channel. And if you enjoyed, please share with your friends. And if you want to see our collection of thousands of stories told by the people who live them, please head on over to gbctv.net. Thanks so much.